Coming up on Smart Tech Today, Matthew Casanelli and I talk about PChoip. Okay, fine, it's Project Chip, the Connected Home over IP group. Then we talk about some of the cool smart home stuff announced at Apple's event, including AirTags and an Apple TV with Thread support, some changes happening in Google with the Google Assistant, and Google Meet, letting you finally zoom in. Who knew we were waiting on that? Plus some HomeKit news, helping somebody out with a home bridge setup, and our picks of the week. Stay tuned.
Podcasts you love
from people you trust.
This is Twit.
This episode of Smart Tech Today is brought to you by Molecule. Molecule is reimagining the future of clean air, starting with the Air Purifier. For a limited time, save up to $120 on Molecule Air Purifiers by visiting molecule.com and enter code STT120 at checkout. Enjoy free shipping and a 30-day at-home trial on the order. And by Command Line Heroes, a podcast that tells the epic true tales of developers, programmers, hackers, geeks, and open source rebels who are revolutionizing the technology landscape. Search for Command Line Heroes anywhere you listen to podcasts. Hey folks, before we get going on the show today, I want to tell you about a super awesome announcement that's just taken place. If you haven't heard about it, it's called Club Twit. What is it? Well, it is a members-only, ad-free podcast service with a bonus Twit Plus feed. All you do is head to twit.tv/clubtwit to join the club for $7 per month. Along with those ad-free podcast episodes, you're going to get exclusive access to a members-only Discord channel where we are all chatting and conversing together. We've got lots of different channels in there for you to check out, including one for Smart Tech Today, Leo, and the hosts, and lots of people have actually done some direct conversations with audience members. So if you want to get an inside look at Twit and hang out with us hosts, this Discord channel is a great place to do that. Plus, as we said, that big thing, ad-free podcast listening at Club Twit, $7 a month. Be one of the first to join Club Twit and be part of this movement. Go to twit.tv/clubtwit. We thank you so much for your support. It means the world to us. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in the Discord. See you soon. Welcome to Smart Tech Today, where we explain the exciting, the dynamic, and, well, the sometimes confusing subject that is the Internet of Things. I am one of your hosts, Micah Sargent.
And I am your other host, Matthew Casanelli. Hello, Micah. How are you doing?
Hello, Matthew. I am doing well. My arm is a little sore today. I went yesterday, got my shot, and it was Pfizer. And because I have a sulfa allergy, they made me wait 30 minutes as opposed to the typical 15. So I was there twiddling my thumbs for a little bit longer, but I didn't have any sort of anaphylactic shock, so that's good. Nice. And all that I have today is just some soreness in my arm, so I've been trying to work that out, just give it some stretches and stuff. A little painful, but outside of that, no other issues, and certainly not looking forward to the effects I can plan to expect after the second dose immediately, but the effects that I will experience 1 to 2 weeks after the second dose, because Pfizer's effectiveness is 95% 1 week after. Those effects I'm looking forward to, at which point I will be able to breathe without as much concern about COVID-19. So, yes, all very good stuff.
Include jubilation.
Yes, exactly. I was ready to jump up and yippee whenever I went in, and I didn't realize that Pfizer was 3 weeks and Moderna was 4 weeks between each shot. I thought that they were both the same at 4 weeks. So whenever I saw I got to come back sooner, I was like, oh yeah, that's awesome. Nice. So yeah, that's that. Nice. And that's how I'm feeling. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Well, let's talk about smart home stuff. We're kicking things off with P-choip. Folks, this is Project Connected Home over IP, or Project Chip, as folks want us to call it. And there are lots of different write-ups. Chip included wants us to call it that instead of the very good P-choip. So in all seriousness, that is how one refers to it. But as a joke, I still do say P-choip sometimes. The idea of chip is that it is a technology that, well, it's sort of a system and a framework and a sort of regulatory kind of wow, it's kind of hard to describe because it's a lot of things. But the idea is that every smart home device can be sort of chip certified. And by being chip certified, by playing ball with chip, you therefore are able to count on your devices being able to communicate with one another. It uses Wi-Fi, Ethernet, Bluetooth LE, and Thread as the different protocols for communicating. But when you see that it's chip, then you know that regardless of whether it works with ALEXA or Siri or this or that those devices can communicate amongst themselves and with the network at large. There's a lot of nitty-gritty detail, of course, that is involved. And one of the things, Matthew, that I found interesting is kind of the first list of devices that Chip is kind of going after, the ones that will be first, which don't include IP cameras. What are some of the things that will be Chip certified?
We've got lighting, blinds, HVAC controls, TVs. So there's a lot there. And that's, I could assume with the security camera things that's maybe just a more complex level than the initial level. But yeah, we've got an article from Stacy on IoT, and she's got all of the details of what's been announced with Chip. And they're also saying that, that more of it's coming in late 2021. So this is more on the horizon than it seemed before. And they've got a good chart in here about, like the application layer that makes everything interoperable and more simple to set up. But there is some interesting just like details in here that I thought was fascinating. I hadn't thought about this, but there is going to be a way for bridge devices to get chip support, and then that will pass sort of the older devices information along through whether or not it's thread or not, but through the network, right. Enabling sort of a backwards compatibility that I didn't think was necessarily going to be possible. So that's super fascinating. There's even a bit which I'm sighing because I suppose we'll have to talk about this and get into it now that this is part of it, but part of Chip will use blockchain technology to certify where a device came from with a manufacturer. And so this is it isn't cryptocurrency, but it is blockchain technology is what they're talking about. So sorry, I'm just sighing because of the whole NFT vibe and everything to it. But I think this does sound like a legitimate way for, regardless of how you interact with these smart home devices, it can certify through a decentralized location that like this is from this manufacturer and things like that, just to make this all more interoperable.
It's for security, from a security standpoint, which totally makes sense. But I also have that sigh. Not least of all because I have yet to find someone who can explain blockchain to me without turning into an advocate for it immediately. Like, I'm not asking you to explain blockchain to me and tell me why I need it. Like, why I don't want you to spend the whole time sort of gushing about blockchain. Just tell me what that means when you say it in a way that doesn't sound like you are I don't know, on MDMA and
stars in your eyes.
Yeah, with stars in your eyes and a lot of alcohol in your body, just sort of waxing poetic about it. And because when they do that, then they tend to throw in lots of different buzzwords and things like that. And I'm like, you've lost me. I don't know. Just give me a simple understanding of it, and then let me use that to kind of inform from there what it means for these devices. But yes, decentralized is, one of those buzzwords, but it makes a little bit more sense at least. And when it comes to security, like I'm glad that that's going to be a factor in this. But as you said, it does kind of make you sigh, because it's just kind of like, oh boy, there's more blockchain
I'm
chat.
just joking too. It's like, we're not going to get, it's not cryptocurrency at all. So that's all like, not going to happen on this show, but I'll do a deeper dive and try to explain it in this context, just with a little more research on this too, because I don't want to dive into a whole blockchain explanation just now. But I think that's a interesting implementation of, if you do know anything about the technology in a way that isn't related to like the currency angle of it, and can kind of, it's like a universal, in the same way that this is a universal standard, that's kind of a universal like support document checking whether or not they've gotten those updates or not. That's a terrible analogy. So that's why I got to stop, because otherwise I'm just going to make bad metaphors. But it's very cool to see chip moving forward. And I think this is just going to be really important for, especially that bridge between, it's sort of like they figured out how to pay attention to what's going to happen going forward, and in the past of the devices that need backwards compatibility. So it's not clear exactly. I'm not suggesting that every single device will get that, but just the potential is there, which is important too. So definitely check out the article in the show notes from Stacy on IoT and read up all about it, because there's a lot there.
While we are on the subject of Project Chip and this sort of all together, this conversation, I do want to mention something pretty exciting. I believe this is next week, May 6th. Is that next week?
That's 2 weeks.
Let me double check. 2 weeks from now. Okay, cool. 2 weeks from now, and I just want to get this out there now so that, tell your friends, and also be prepared. On May 6th, we're going to have Jonathan Hui on the show. And Jonathan is the VP of Technology for the Thread Group, the Vice President of Technology for the Thread Group, like the nerdiest of nerds when it comes to Thread. And of course, I mean that in the most loving way possible. Yeah. Like, we get to speak to the VP of Technology at the Thread Group, also a principal engineer at Google, and the person who maintains OpenThread, which is the open source version of the Thread protocol. So this is like right there at the top. I know we are both really pumped to get to talk to Jonathan, and I'm looking forward to digging in even more with what's to come from there. So it's going to be great. So stay tuned again on May 6th, where we will be having a conversation with Jonathan Hui. Very exciting stuff. All right, let us move on to talk about the Apple event, as that took place on Tuesday. And there were some smart home announcements that took place. And I'm going to let you talk about AirTags, because I want to talk about the Apple TV. So,
sure.
Well, first we should say, for the longest time, anybody in the tech press has been referring to these in the plural as AirTags, because maybe you would have, it's likely you'd have more than one. So you put your AirTags on things. Apple, in its very Apple-y way, came out with a device called AirTag. And so the plural of that is probably like AirTag devices, but who knows? So we're just going to keep calling them AirTags, but just know we're talking about AirTag when we talk about AirTags. Tell me all about what we can expect from AirTags.
Sure. So these are the neat little $29 or a 4-pack for $99 Find My iPhone / it's just called the Find My Network now enabled device trackers. So Apple was pretty specific that these are little tags to track a device like a purse or a backpack or a jacket, or you can put it on a bike or something like that. And then using the local network generated by iPhones and devices like this and iPads, you can find and track where these tags are and get back to them. And in many ways, it's built on the ultra wideband chip that's in these now and has been included in the iPhones, so that you can literally like turn to the left and right and it'll say 2 feet in front of you and then, oh, you're here, and things like that. So it's pretty specifically like losing your keys in the couch. You can actually see that it's in this spot in the couch. And they also make little sound effects. They're built off of just the normal coin batteries. I don't remember which one specifically it is. Like, I was just replacing some of these the other day in my
CR 2032.
Yeah, exactly. I can, if it's like 33 or something, but you can get them engraved, which is kind of cool, with like little emojis. So I might be getting a little robot emoji on it. And then they've got a whole series of little cases that are kind of slings or keychain modules, or if you're super fancy, exclusive leather from Hermes. So that costs $400. So mostly if you're just super rich. I mean, I'm sure those are extremely nice and would go with your very nice handbags if you had that. But it is like, what is it, $449 for the nicest one? And the AirTag itself is $29. So it's kind of funny. But I love that these are so cheap, because it seems like the kind of thing, especially along with, I mean, of course, they'll get you with the accessories as well, but it seems like the nice, convenient thing, not like, I don't know, $39, $49. You see them bumping it up there. So I'm probably going to get a 4-pack and try these out. There's a whole lot of security and privacy angles around them too. So if some of the examples are like, if someone dropped one in your bag, it would notify you that someone else's AirTag is near you. And I mean, I think that's the main use case there that people are concerned about, is like, these aren't designed for tracking people, they're designed for tracking things. So they definitely were clear about that. And it's all end-to-end encrypted. Like when someone finds your thing with an AirTag in it, it will send a notification to their device and say, like, you put in your contact information ahead of time, or what, I think in lost mode, and then it'll just say like, hey, this is Matthew's AirTag, here's his phone number, call him to like return it, sort of thing. So I wonder if we'll start seeing like, I lost my thing with AirTags and this nice stranger returned it to me stories.
Oh,
just because
that'd be cool.
Anything Apple gets covered in the news like that now. But I'm sure there'll be one first journalist who lost their bag or something and got it back. But I'm still so fascinated. I guess one angle before I get to that, it does use an interesting combination of AR. Like, it's using your phone's camera while you're looking to check the environment and stuff like that. So I thought that was interesting. But I still really want shortcuts automations with this. And I have no clue if it's going to do it. I kind of assume it's not in the original version, and this could be maybe a feature that gets added later. But I'd
like
love,
a WWDC.
Yeah, I'd love to have one underneath my desk, and it's just that when I'm within 5 feet of this, run this automation or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that stuff would be so cool. But it doesn't, I mean, it makes sense that that's just a whole other layer than this initial layer. So Apple doesn't like to do two things at once. They like to do one thing really well. So at least right now, this does seem like the best way to find and locate your items using smart technology and the kind of network that you would assume would just be possible with technology like this. So this is one of those things that's very, I mean, AirTags have been in the rumors for over 2 years now. So a lot of people in the tech space are just kind of like sick of the idea. We're not sick of it, but it's like Tile has already done this also. And it's like so cool, but you're just kind of like, oh, okay. Like this is one of those things that we'll just take for granted that, I don't know, 20 years ago, you would just completely lose that stuff. And so it's going to be an interesting, like, huge worldwide shift, because everybody who has iPhones will create this network, but it's also so low key that the impact is going to be kind of less obvious, but still there. So I think it's cool. I can't think of, I mean, besides that shortcuts automation thing, I don't know about like true in the home uses. maybe put it on your TV remote if you really can't find that often. But Apple's got a fix for their remote, at least you can talk about that part unless you have anything else to say about AirTags, I guess.
No, I think that you covered it quite well. It is a really, like, I've set an alarm to be getting it for sure. I want to try these out, see how they work, see if they provide. But again, I'm looking forward to what we will eventually get from these kinds of trackers. Not so much what they provide now, but what they could provide in the future in terms of, like you said, automations.
Yeah, exactly. Like right now, it is just like does exactly what it says on the tin extremely well. But then other than that, there's not a whole lot to talk about besides the like privacy angle, which I think they seem to have uniquely served well. Like there's no chance I would buy an Amazon Ring tracker like this or something like that, just because of the way that Apple includes privacy from the ground up, I think is why I think I was having this conversation on Twitter with somebody else of just only a company like Apple could get away with releasing something like this versus the story just being, oh, like Apple or like somebody wants to track you everywhere you go, sort of. So I'm glad that is built into this product because that's the only thing that makes me comfortable with it. But we'll have to see they have a whole network of Find My devices that can be integrated with this. And I'll put the link in the show notes. I didn't grab it for this, but there was I think 9 to 5 Mac article about how they just want the product itself in the future to come with Find My, where like your really nice camera has this integrated and you could go find it later or something like that. So I thought that was interesting too. The feature potential beyond this, like what smart home devices could be integrated with Find My specifically to be in the house is kind of like a whole new product category. So that'd be cool to see.
Yeah. The next thing that Apple announced, which has pertinence to our conversation here on Smart Tech today, was a new Apple TV. And I need to take a second here because I'm all wrapped up in my headphone cord and I'm going to end up unplugging it, and we don't want to do that. All right, we're out of the weeds there. This is Apple's new Apple TV 4K they announced at the recent Apple event, and it is a pretty important device because it is, despite the fact that it didn't introduce any kind of new design or anything like that with the device itself. They did introduce a new Siri Remote that is. It looks like it fixes some of the problems and complaints that I've seen folks have with the old school Siri Remote. Especially that ring. I think that's going to make such a huge difference whenever people are seeking through a video and trying to get to the exact right place that they want to get to. That touch ring will let you move around like this, as opposed to the way that you do it now, where you're just kind of like swiping across and it gets very sensitive. It can be very annoying. This also has 802.11ax Wi-Fi 6, which is awesome. That's going to give you much better connectivity over Wi-Fi. I don't have mine connected. The 4K one I have right now, I don't have mine connected over Ethernet. I just use the Wi-Fi that's built in, and it's already pretty good. Even watching 4K content on Netflix and stuff like that. It has HDMI 2.1, so you're getting high frame rate and HDR content for places that offer high frame rate content, and Bluetooth 5, which is great. And the A12 Bionic chip. But the thing that I was most pumped to see was that this new Apple TV includes a Thread radio. So up to this point, since the introduction of HomeKit over Thread devices, or as I have just coined the term HKOT, HomeKit over Thread, up to this point, the only way that you could use HKOT devices was through the use of a HomePod Mini, because it was the only Apple device that had a Thread radio built in. Now that this new Apple TV is here, you'll also be able to use the Apple TV as your home hub for your HomeKit setup, and then be able to control your HKOT devices over Thread as opposed to whatever fallback protocol they have. So this is great. It also means that I will have more Thread routers in my home, Thread border routers in my home, because maybe I didn't want 7, 8 HomePod minis, but I would like to have a new Apple TV in my living room, and then to have it also have Thread built into it is great. So that I was most pumped about. And it also, I was tweeting about this the other day, used to be a long, long time ago in Apple support documents for HomeKit, it would list the devices that you could use as a home hub. There was the HomePod, the original HomePod. There was Apple TV, and they used to say an iPad. And it was just, if you had your iPad at home and you didn't take it with you where you went, then you could use that as a home hub. At some point, they stopped listing the iPad as a home hub. They stopped talking about it as being a home hub. And you can still use an iPad as a home hub, but it's just not listed in the support documentation. And I kind of wondered why they stopped saying that. And now it's clear to me that they, knew about Thread for a long time. Were working on, Google's had Thread for 10 years or so. Nest and Google have been working on Thread for 10 or more years. And so it's clear that Apple was slowly pushing to have your home hub just always be a Thread-enabled device as well. And they're not going to, and maybe don't quote me on this, but you could probably quote me on this. They're not going to include, as far as I can see, a Thread radio in an iPad. They don't have, a bunch of extra room to do that. But in these other devices that you can count on being stationary by the very nature of what they are, for those to have the Thread radios in them. So yeah, I'm not surprised to see the iPad leave that kind of support documentation, and the HomePod Mini and the Apple TV being the main home hubs that people have in their homes.
Yeah, it's like they don't want you to invest in that as a solution where it's moving towards this protocol in the future more. And it's like it probably would still do some of it, but just not to that same degree. That is interesting. Like getting the new Apple TV would mean that I'd already have pretty much full coverage in my house because of where all of my HomePod minis are placed too. So that would be nice.
Absolutely.
What do you think of the Siri Remote?
I don't hate the current Siri Remote, but I mentioned this on MacBreak Weekly, so I'll mention it here. Perhaps someone who lives with me maybe absolutely hates the Siri Remote. And I've never heard someone complain so much about a thing as I have heard him complain about the Siri Remote and the Apple TV in general. And it's almost always because of that trackpad, the seeking controls on the trackpad. And I get it. It is not. It's picky, it's fidgety, it doesn't exactly respond the way that you think it will. And if you haven't used it enough to kind of learn the, what clicking means.
Right, but
exactly. What clicking means versus tapping versus swiping versus if I'm in that section and then I hit menu, does it take me back to the home screen or does it bring me out of the swipey portion? Like there are so many things that you have to learn over time that make it so difficult that are going to be solved by a jog wheel. And so that jog wheel, I'm so pumped about. I think that that's going to make a big difference. And then also the differential controls, which for anybody who doesn't know, that means that more than just the stupid Siri button is going to have, you'll be able to tell the difference between the buttons a lot better than you can right now. The only thing that you can tell is that the Siri button, because it's dented in, is where it is. But the rest of the buttons, it's kind of hard to figure out which one's which and where you are if you're not looking right at it. So they've improved those buttons. They've added a power button and a mute button to it, meaning that you'll be able to use it like a standard remote, which the fact that we couldn't mute up until now is kind of wild. And then there's something that folks have not done a lot of talk about. I just saw it on Twitter. I think it was Stephen Moser who was talking about it. Looks like it's going to be in beta for a while, but very exciting. The Apple TV looks to be like it's going to support what's called eARC. ARC is a technology that some of you might be familiar with. It stands for Audio Return Channel. And if you've got a soundbar, you're probably familiar with this. You plug your soundbar over HDMI into the ARC port on your television. And it works as a standard HDMI, but at the same time, it also tells the television, hey, we want to use that HDMI port to send audio out to the soundbar, which then can play the audio into the room. And so that's very cool, right? You know, if you've got a soundbar, then you've probably used that technology and you think it's great. And some people have soundbars with like built-in set-top boxes. Also, the soundbar can be the set-top box and the sound. With eARC, you'll be able to plug your Apple TV into the ARC port on your television, and then it will use your connected HomePods as the sound output. Basically turning your HomePods into the soundbar for your television. So if this works, I am going to be so pumped, because it means that on the rare occasion when I'm not watching something on my Apple TV, or when my partner is playing like his Xbox, instead of having to use the crummy speakers that are built into instead of having to use the crummy speakers that are built into the television, you'll be able to use the HomePod as if it is the soundbar for the TV, or HomePods, depending on what you have. That's the old. Now I'm like, Matthew. No, that's what ARC does. ARC, it all works together to make sure that the television and the sound all match together. So in theory, and that's why it's still in beta right now, I'm sure, once they get any delay ironed out, then that's going to be awesome. My one gripe now is, why the crap did you cancel the HomePod then? Because if I could use my HomePods as the ARC output, then I want two HomePods. I don't want just the one HomePod that I have. So now I'm kind of joining
maybe
the
they'll
club.
have a cable for it that goes into this. Because that's still, if there's still, I mean, even I get ARC being real time, but I don't get how it would be real time out to a HomePod. I could see it going back into the receiver and stuff. I'm wondering, does it almost make the Apple TV a receiver in that way?
Yes. Yeah, that's precisely what it is. Yeah. That's how you can think about it, because so there are plenty of guides about eARC versus regular HDMI ARC and what the different things offer. Yep. And eARC stands for Enhanced Audio Return Channel. And it's a feature implemented in HDMI 2.1. So you get better bandwidth and better speed so that you can get high quality audio from your TV to a soundbar or AV receiver. So with that, I think that also means that with the enhancement and with HDMI 2.1 built into the new Apple TV, you're going to get faster communication, which will probably make it easier for there to be low latency between the HomePod and the actual television. But we'll see. Again, this is a beta feature. It's not even officially announced as part of the Apple TV's package. But all of this stuff, like these smart home devices, having these features built in is just so great.
Yeah, I think the Siri Remote is a good change also, and like that they kept that scroll wheel is important, because I think that's why when everybody was like, go back to the directional remote, I was like, please don't. Like, that destroys half the experience. And so this seems like a healthy alternative. I'm very curious how this would work for games, because it looks taller, so I don't think, it doesn't look like you can hold the remote sideways and use the play button as controls, but I'm not gonna lie, I doubt anyone actually ever really did that. So it's like probably not that big of a loss. They also made it silver, and I think that was a terrible idea. Like, I don't know if that's for contrast with the buttons, but the old one was black and disappeared into all of my stuff, and now I like want it to be low key and not just have like a silver chunk of metal, but at least it's recycled aluminum. So. Also, the other cool feature coming to all Apple TVs, and this is like, I mean, I don't know how widely used it will be because it's hard to tell, but this is like the coolest smart home type integration I've seen in a long time. Is if your TV isn't Dolby Vision, you can literally put your phone up to the TV and it will scan. I don't even understand, really. They kind of just like blew past it, but the phone will scan the TV screen and determine what, like, it's color calibrating it using the phone, and then it'll pass that to the Apple TV, and the Apple TV will basically output a slightly different color profile to compensate for what your TV is doing wrong. And so, like, this can kind of make old TVs look better on Apple TV, and it doesn't require the newest one. So this is super cool, and it just is like technology. Like, I don't know, it's like cool. I'll accept it. Makes sense. Just neat. So I want to try it, and they made it sound like it was one of the new features. So, like, I guess the overall angle with this Apple TV is like, this is the future-proofed, or I don't know how future-proofed, especially if they do add in that 120 frame support and the eARC stuff. But it's kind of just like, you probably don't need to upgrade to this. You can buy that remote separately also for $59. So if you really want that, you can switch now. And otherwise, this is just kind of like the next version of the Apple TV going forward, which is cool. But not like, I'd have no reason to upgrade otherwise, unless I was actually hitting any of these issues. Just to be clear. I also had an article from 9 to 5 Google that was just like, Apple's like, smart TVs don't do this stuff. And they wrote an article about all of the things that Google TV does that they mentioned they don't do. And so I just thought it was a snarky response that's fair, because sometimes they just like pitch it as the only device out there. But Apple TV still costs $179 to start. And I think the replacement remote is more expensive than what a Google TV, I guess with Chromecast. I don't even remember which one it is now, but those are a lot cheaper, I would say. So I don't want to suggest that this is like the best solution for people out there, because a lot of these other smart TV solutions do the same thing in similar ways. So check that out if you're not sold on Apple TV as well.
There you go. Is it time to take a break?
Sure.
All right, let's take a break. Breathe in and breathe out, because this episode of Smart Tech Today is brought to you by Molecule. Look, you know it, I know it, we know it. We're all spending a lot more time indoors. Did you know indoor air can actually be up to 5 times worse than outdoor air, according to the EPA? That's why Molecule is reimagining the future of clean air, starting with the Air Purifier. Molecule is not just innovation on existing technology, but an actual scientific breakthrough in air purification. Molecule's core technology, called PICO, or photoelectrochemical oxidation, actually destroys harmful pollutants in the air, like viruses, bacteria, and mold, instead of just collecting them on filters. Molecule air purifiers are designed to help protect homes, businesses, and medical spaces, so you know they're destroying pollutants and providing clean air. The Molecule Air Mini is designed for rooms up to 250 square feet. The Molecule Air is for larger rooms up to 600 square feet, and the Molecule Air Pro is for rooms up to 1,000 square feet. They also have the Molecule Air Mini Plus, which helps protect small rooms with a particle sensor and auto protect mode, which adjusts fan speed based on the sensor. And the Molecule Air Pro RX received 510K Class 2 medical device clearance for medical purposes to destroy bacteria and viruses in the air. Clean indoor air is more important than ever. Molecule's PICO technology meets the performance requirements and FDA guidance for use in helping reduce the risk of exposure to SARS-CoV-2, the COVID-19 virus, in healthcare settings. While it's important to maintain other good preventative practices, this is an extra layer of virus protection for your spaces. Molecule's technology and filtration systems have been tested and verified by independent third-party labs for the whole home and beyond. Molecule now offers its breakthrough PICO technology across a range of products, providing a clean air solution for a range of environments. You just pick the unit that's best for your space, or you create a discounted bundle. And lots of folks have left reviews of the Molecule Air Mini on the site, and they've shared their thoughts about how they feel about this product. Nancy from Boston We've tried many air purifiers, but Molecule is clearly a cut above the rest. Headaches were a common occurrence due to allergens in the air, but they're largely ended due to our use of Molecule. It's also quiet, truly quiet, which aids in its helpfulness. It's also Chef Mike approved from San Francisco, who says, I forget that I live in San Francisco, and one day when we all woke up, the sky was orange. Inside, the air was sweet and clean. We love our little Molecule. For a limited time, save up to $120 on Molecule air purifiers by visiting molecule.com and using promo code STT120 at checkout. Enjoy free shipping and a 30-day at-home trial on your order. That's STT120 at MOLEKULE.com and enter code STT120, STT120. Thank you, Molecule, for sponsoring this week's episode of Smart Tech Today. All right, let's talk about using your iPad Pro as a display, particularly if you have a Liquid Retina display XDR packed into that bad boy.
Yeah, I just wanted to put this last bit from the Apple event because I thought it was an interesting angle to Apple's pitch for it. And just for the overall news, there's a new iPad Pro that does have the M1 chip, which is super fascinating. Like, I guess this had been rumored, but I just didn't pay attention. And so I was like, that's amazing. I did not expect that to come. Just the new powerful chip that's in all of their Macs is now in the iPad Pro, which I think sets it on a level that, I mean, I remember I have like a little iPad user group message area. What am I even saying? Thread. And then we were all talking about last year. It was sort of like, where does the iPad go after the M1? And it's like, oh, it's getting the M1. So that's the solution there. But the super cool smart home relevant feature, besides being like it's a whole HDR monitor, like the super fancy display for people who are making movies, but also at home, they added the wide angle camera to the front of the iPad so that you can, while you're video chatting with people, it will zoom in and out based off of where you're walking around the display, a lot like the Zoom devices, Facebook portal, the Amazon, which one is it? Echo Show 10 that has, it looks like the HomePod with the screen on it. And so also people are referencing the suggestions that Apple had considered doing a HomePod with a screen on it. Like this exact feature is what would be on that product of you can use your iPad as that display. And I thought this was interesting because, I mean, I had this like whole thought process that I was like, oh, this is so smart. And then I was like, wait, this is the most obvious use of the iPad. Is just that an iPad ultimately is like the best smart home device on some degree because it's a computer display like that you can carry around with you, control all of your smart home things, play videos throughout the house in different places without it being locked into one place, and do this kind of video chatting experience from it. So I think that's maybe why Apple never did that in the first place with HomePod, is because they already had the iPad and it's going to be way better than any sort of screen situation there. So I just thought that was an interesting, maybe this is just incredibly obvious, but I love that there was an article from CNET that was like, which smart display is best for your home? And other than, I do think the Nest Hub is going to be the best one in that specific category. But when Apple was using the word display over and over again in the event, I was like, ultimately the iPad is the best display, smart display in my home. And that's what I use it for all the time. So I just thought this, particularly the center stage feature, is an interesting contrast to the Zoom devices, portal, Google Meet things that also do something similar. And you don't need a dedicated device just for that. So I want to try this out for sure.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to talk about some Google stuff. Sure. There's lots happening over in that space. And the first thing we're going to talk about is the Google Assistant getting a little bit of an update. So way back when, Google kind of let you go in and make edits to what actually shows up in your Assistant feed. So you can kind of see, do I want stocks? Never. Do I want to see news? Sometimes. Do I want to see sports scores? Also never. And you can make adjustments based on what you do and don't want. Now there is a way to kind of pin the stuff that you want most often to see kind of right at the top. So it will actually let you say, okay, I love when I see the weather. I love when I see my next event on the calendar. The rest of that stuff you can show me, but just show it to me below. These are the things that I want to see first and foremost in my Google Assistant feed. So yeah, this is a really nice way to kind of get your quick summary if you use the Google Assistant and you use the snapshot feed. To know what's going on for the day, or for the next day, if you are about to go to bed and you're just looking at your schedule for the next day. So a good update to the Google Assistant in terms of visual.
Definitely, and especially when you want to just pay attention to that sort of thing throughout over time, as opposed to just briefly it refreshing the order every time you change it. So I think this makes a lot of sense. And I think this is also one of those just overall features. This feed is still something that I'm super jealous of as a Siri user, because there is no app at all. There's no they have the Siri suggestions throughout the operating system, but there's no centralized place to get this kind of recommendation and a little more proactively show you this stuff. And so I'm totally jealous, and I would love to pin my own specific type of smart assistant stuff at the top and always be able to see that right away, because that is when it's recommending too much and doesn't show you the things that you want, it's okay, come on, let's get over this. So good update there.
All right. Up next, Google has revamped its Wear OS Play Store page, which, as we've heard a little bit more about Wear OS and some of the additions and changes that were going to be coming, it's interesting to see the different apps and watch faces that they've made part of their Play Store page for Wear OS devices. I
love.
Good.
Oh, good. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I like that the photo in the 9 to 5 Google article is a smaller wrist, someone with a smaller wrist wearing the smartwatch versus where we typically see kind of a big old honking wrist with one of those watches on it. It's usually, they seem to be designed for folks with larger wrists, and they're not as dainty as what Apple Watch provides in those two sizes.
I think this overall is an important change to emphasize what's possible with Wear OS 2 and those watch faces and things like that too. And just real quick, I have seen some rumors or renders of a potential Google Pixel watch, and so that's sort of why I wanted to reference this story. But I don't want to emphasize it too much, but just that there's more coming with this space, and I want to see that get developed as well. So I think them emphasizing it for the developer ecosystem as well on top, and just the users who want to get more out of it, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I lost my place. Do you remember where we were?
Google Meet backgrounds is what I wanted to reference. Just that it's surprising that they didn't add this already, but Google has just steadily improved Google Meet over time, which has been really good. And you can have the automatic background, or even hide your own visible window, which I think is an important thing for exhaustion with video conferencing like this. I think that's a big thing that people emphasize with the last year is there's no time in the workday where you stare at your own face while you're talking to people constantly. And it is a very psychological effect that you're monitoring every single interaction that you have, even just your facial expression. I mean, maybe in the work environment, you should have done that more often and you're giving facial expressions in a meeting, but when you're not in the same place, that shouldn't always be necessary too. So I think that makes a lot of sense. And it's just, again, improvements to that video conferencing feature that I think is all now going to be part of our homes and our remote work environments going forward. Or hopefully people still get that outside of a traditional work week. But this kind of feature is just necessary to hide all of your messy home behind you.
Agreed. Yeah. That's, some people don't, maybe would turn on video if they didn't feel, sort of judged by their space. And so any opportunity to make it easier for someone who wants to, I don't think anybody should be forced into turning on video, but anybody who wants to turn on video, to be able to turn on video, I think is great. We have Netatmo adding HomeKit secure video support to its outdoor cameras. So we've talked about HomeKit secure video in the past. It is a way for you to record video and to sort of monitor video for different events without having to rely on third-party servers, third-party algorithms and things like that. So you can buy a webcam or a security camera, and you can pay the X dollars a month to one of these security camera makers. And oftentimes you'll get like pet recognition and person recognition and some of those kinds of things. You'll get notifications for them. HomeKit Secure Video came along as a way to try and keep privacy concerns at the forefront, while also providing you a way to have some of those nice features that you get when you do use one of those third-party services. And so Netatmo joins that list of HomeKit Secure Video. And I personally, I have HomeKit Secure Video enabled on the security cameras that I have, and I think it's fantastic. It's gotten a lot better over time. And so to hear that some of these outdoor cameras are getting it as well is a real improvement.
Yeah, that's nice. And it says that their doorbell is going to get it next too. So I think this is just an expansion that is always welcome. Did you say you have Netatmo specifically, or?
I do not have the Netatmo stuff. I never went for Netatmo because it was not HomeKit Secure Video in the past. So now that it is, that kind of changes things.
Nice. Good solid update.
Eve
got more
also
from... Yeah, Eve.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of updates, Eve just released its thread-enabled light switch. This is the European light switch, and it is the latest product from Eve to support Thread. I imagine that at some point we'll see the American version of this come as well, and at which point it will also support Thread. Thread is the main protocol with Bluetooth LE as the fallback protocol, but Thread will definitely be what you want to use with it. So very cool to see Eve continue to add new devices to its lineup. And we just keep seeing more and more Thread devices, which is fantastic. And then is there anything you want to say about Eve's stuff before we talk about the next one?
Nope, that's all.
Cool. Speaking of Thread, Belkin just announced a new Wemo remote. And this is interesting because this is normally, I've talked before about how Wemo devices I've had a lot of issues with them, and most of them seem to be based around the app. The app is very picky and choosy about, you have to have it registered a certain way. And if you don't, then sometimes it loses connection, and there are all these different issues. And so I've always been bothered by that because Wemo makes really good looking products, but they've given me trouble, and that's annoying. So now I see that they've come out with a Wemo remote that is a programmable switch, which is the thing that makes your smart home so great, because it lets people who are not as smart home savvy as some of us be able to use the smart home without having to think too much about it. It's an easy way to kind of translate the smart home into something that anybody can use, but it's also just convenient. So each of those buttons, there are 3 buttons on the Wemo switch, and each of them has 2 types of gesture that you can do: a single click and a press and hold. So a long click or a long press, and then just a normal press. And each of those can correspond to a scene or an action. So you can set it up and say, when I press the top button once, I want you to turn on the lights in the living room. When I long press the top button, turn off the lights in the living room. For the second button, long press or a simple press turns on the lights in the kitchen. A long press turns off the lights in the kitchen, that kind of thing. So you've got up to 6 different scenes that can be programmed into this thing. But what takes this to the next level is that this is a thread-ready device, meaning that it's got thread capability. And folks, this is what I have been waiting for. I thought that Eve was going to be first to the market with its Eve button as being the thread button that I would add to my home, but it looks like it's going to be Wemo. And my hope is that it works as well as Eve's HomeKit over Thread devices work, which are instant-friggin-taneous. And if that's the case, this is incredible, because I've talked before about how I love using Philips Hue's dimmer switches as HomeKit control remotes in my house. I've got one in my living room with 4 buttons, and I use that to control the lighting in the space. And I've got one in my bedroom, and I use that to control the lighting in that space. But it is I believe it's Zigbee that Hue uses, but it's Hue's bridge. And while I've talked about the greatness of the motion sensor that Philips Hue has, I've never had any issues with that. I have had issues with the remote, where sometimes you press it and it doesn't immediately register.
Yeah.
With Thread so far, I've not had any issues with me triggering the different things that I have in place. So this could finally be the button, the remote that works every time. And if that's the case, I am so excited. It's available for $49.99, so it's a little pricey, but it's about the same price as you can expect from the other programmable switches that are available. And with 6 scenes, that's more than you're going to get from most. But the thing that makes me most look forward to this is that Belkin just puts it out there. They say, hey, this is only able to work with the Home app. There, you don't launch the Wemo app at all. You don't set it up with the Wemo app. You set it up directly using the Home app for iOS. And it's also, the way that you set it up is over NFC, which is a thing that Thread has been wanting. That's kind of like Thread really likes using NFC as the means of kind of blessing the device and adding it to your home. So this is like the latest Thread stuff in this Wemo device. And so I'm really looking forward to getting this, hitting the plus button to add it to my home, and booping the top of it. And then suddenly I've got, 6 buttons, and I can slowly start to phase out my Hue remotes with this. If it works as well, given that it doesn't have to touch the Wemo app at all, I think that this could be...
That's the blessing.
Yeah. The fact that it doesn't touch the Wemo app and that it is Thread, those are the things that make this potentially very, very cool. And then, it's already available for sale on Belkin's site. I placed an order shortly before the show started. So I will, of course, be talking about it as soon as I get one and am able to determine if it truly works as well as I hope it will, being that it is a Thread device. But just seeing all these little Thread devices pop up like popcorn everywhere has me so pumped. And I'm looking forward to the future of the smart home if it continues to work as well as it has so far.
Yeah, I like that. Especially, I was immediately skeptical of the, I was like, this is totally just going to be 3 buttons, and they say it's 6. And it'll work, but the second ones won't or something. But that it's built into the Home app is good. I think that's part of the problem with the Hue ones is they have 4 buttons, but they're all just a single press, and there's no sort of extra capability hidden behind there. I totally want to have a shortcuts remote basically with this, and doing all of the home automation, time tracking thing through the web requests with it, and then I have 6 different buttons with it. So that is actually super cool. I'm pretty interested in this as well, especially if it's instant. It does say Thread support is coming after you get it, basically. So that might be a software update thing, but you might be disappointed for the first couple weeks or something.
Oh, I didn't realize that Thread support. So that's why it says Thread ready. Well, exactly. I won't be setting it up until I get Thread, because if you think I'm using Bluetooth LE, you are a joke, universe, because there's no way I'm going to wrestle with Bluetooth LE. So they better get that thing working pretty quick, or it and I are going to have some words. Yeah, there you can see on the thing, general specifications, Bluetooth low energy and Thread ready. So hopefully Thread.
The PR release says support for Thread will be available post-launch also. That's where I saw.
Gotcha.
Officially, it's like not going to be ready right away. So, but cool to know.
Good that it's built in. And it's probably Nordic is one of the chip manufacturers that's really taking off where it has Bluetooth LE, Zigbee, I believe is one of them, Thread, and a bunch of other things. And I believe Eve, don't quote me on this, but I believe Eve is using that Nordic chip as its kind of basic chipset. Last time I popped open the Eve device, I'm pretty sure that's what I remember seeing inside was a Nordic chip. So wouldn't be surprised if it's similar, and that just means that a firmware upgrade will get everything solved. But that'll be interesting because that means that this will be one of the first devices that I've had where the firmware update will be issued through the home app as opposed to just being a notification to pop open to the third-party app to install the firmware update.
This is it seems like it's one of the first ones built to take advantage of all those HomeKit changes that we've seen in last year of like that it'll get software updates through the app. Setup is through the app and through just NFC, and it's entirely on there. Like I'm looking at the support questions on the page, and people are like, what about this? And they're like, it can control HomeKit apps only through the home app only. Like they're being very clear it's not going to work elsewhere. So neat. I want one.
All right. Let's take a quick break so I can tell you about Command Line Heroes. Command Line Heroes is a podcast that shares with you the epic true tales of developers, programmers, hackers, geeks, and open source rebels who have and still are revolutionizing the technology landscape. And Season 7 is out now. Season 7 of Command Line Heroes explores a pivotal year, 1995. It was the start of the dot-com boom. I was a very young age that I'm not going to reveal, but a lot of things had to come together for the internet to succeed. So you should meet the internet class of 95. Can we just take a second here? The Command Line Heroes page, if you're listening, I'm sorry, you should definitely just go to the Command Line Heroes website and check this out. They, in the last Command Line Heroes season, they designed these beautiful graphics. Each of the different people that they talked about, they made them like action figures in a package. This time it's like Windows 95, Windows 98 style. They always do such an exceptional job with the conceit that they develop for these different shows, for these different series and seasons. And I just think it's so incredible. They put so much thought and work into these episodes, and it's amazing. In fact, earlier today, one of our listeners was talking about how they play Command Line Heroes for their kids, and their kids are just loving learning about these different things. So it's not just for adults. It can be for anybody who wants to learn about how the web once was and how the web is now. Long before you could hop on GoDaddy to grab a domain name, there was a woman you'd have to call, Elizabeth Jake Feinler, who was the keeper of all domains. What a title. Episode 1 of the season features a conversation with a woman herself, now in her 90s, about how she managed the internet and how her team needed to create the DNS. 1995 was the year that ISPs became the dominant gateway to the information superhighway. But how did we go from ARPANET all the way to that? It turns out none of it would have happened without a team of intrepid engineers at the University of Michigan and a network they built called the NSFNet. A new search engine launched in 1995 that took the world by storm. It had a number of firsts: a fast and advanced web crawler, whole page translation from a number of different languages back into English, and something called Flypaper. Hear how Alta Vista was the first search engine for the 21st century. These are all so cool. 1995 was a pivot point, the moment when the internet went from academic curiosity to global phenomenon. Command Line Heroes is hosted by developer and podcaster Saranyat Barak. And of course, as happens when Command Line Heroes supports the show, I got a sneak peek preview of Season 7. And of course, just so much cool stuff that you get to learn about the history behind the internet and everything that went down in 1995. I mean, they're just beautifully designed episodes. There's so much interesting stuff that you get to learn about, and anybody should go check it out. Just check it out. I think that you'll find at least one episode that you're going to love, but I have a feeling you're going to end up just binging them because they're all so fascinating. Check out all of the incredible stories from season 7 today. Just search for Command Line Heroes anywhere you listen to podcasts. That's Command Line Heroes. Download it today. And of course, our thanks to Command Line Heroes for their support of this show and of Twit. All right, let us move on to our project feedback, etc. segment. I believe Harry wrote into us. What has Harry asked us?
Yes, he wanted some guidance or us pointing him in the right direction to set up Homebridge on his Synology network attached storage, and he wants tips on how to get things connected. And I said Homebridge because he did ask for Hoobs, and Micah and I were talking about this before the show, that we've probably emphasized Hoobs a little too much, even just because I think it's fun to say as opposed to Homebridge, just because it's called Hoobs. But generally, it is the Homebridge is what you're going for, and Hoobs is a very particular use case, especially because you can get a really cheap alternative like a Raspberry Pi to set up or run it from something like a Mac Mini or an always-on computer. But I just did want to, or maybe Micah more wanted to emphasize it, but I'm the one who keeps saying Hoobs, and it's like, it is $170 versus you can get a very cheap Raspberry Pi and run it off of that, or in this case, a Synology is what he's asking about. But just wanted to put that out there so that we don't keep like sending people in the direction of Hoobs when there are much cheaper alternatives. Like I was saying, it's still the consumer-friendly solution if you really don't want to do anything at all, but you're paying like $150 extra for it at that point, and so that just kind of kills the, I don't know, it's like if you have money to burn, go for it, but it is like, you should probably look into those other solutions. So sorry to take your bit there, Micah.
Oh, no, that's okay. I mean, you perfectly kind of touched on what I was talking about, which is it is fun. And you know, for the longest time we talked about Hoobs with HomeKit out of the box at the time, or excuse me, Homebridge out of the box. At the time, it was this really nice GUI. It had a really nice kind of firmware update process and plugin update process, and none of that. It was a lot harder to just use Homebridge on its own. You kind of had to use the command line a lot. There were some interfaces that you could use, but it just wasn't as easy to use. But at some point, Homebridge kind of readjusted itself, renewed itself, revised itself is the word I was looking for, to provide a really nice GUI. So if you have Homebridge set up on your home network, you can go to homebridge.local and log in with your admin, and it is a really nice interface that has all of the information that you need about your smart home. And so at this point, what I have found is by installing Hoobs, Homebridge out of the box, you're actually putting an unnecessary layer on top of Homebridge that can in some ways cause you more issues that you wouldn't have without. So I kept having issues with Hoobs where I would install a plugin and then something would go wrong and it would get kind of annoyed and it wouldn't work properly and things were just not updating, and I would make adjustments and it would just not take, and all of these issues. And I went to the Homebridge website to basically try and reinstall Homebridge. And when I did that, I saw that Homebridge suddenly had this homebridge.local place that looked a lot like Hoobs, but was better looking, and then also meant that there was nothing else on top of it. So instead of kind of it being 3 layers to get down to the Node.js server, it was just 2 layers. So I should say 2 layers on top of the Node.js server would be Hoobs. So we just take 1 layer away, And now we've just got that Homebridge layer on top of that Node.js server that lets me more directly interface with it. So yeah, at this point, I'm kind of not actively encouraging folks to try out Homebridge out of the box unless they simply don't know how to set up Homebridge on its own. If you would have trouble following the guides that walk you through how to set it up on a Raspberry Pi, or even how to set it up on your own computer and just kind of keep it running in the background, then Hoobs is great for that, because you can buy the box. It's like a Raspberry Pi that you just plug in to the router and get it working that way. But if you do have a little bit of savvy, or you're really good at following directions, then there's no need to spend the money on that when you can get Homebridge for free and flash it to an SD card that you then put into a Raspberry Pi or similar. So yeah, that's kind of the conversation that we had about that, and why Hoobs is not necessarily the way to go for sure. So what do we want to talk about now is Synology. So Synology is pretty cool in that it is not just network attached storage, meaning that it's not just a big honking hard drive that you can drop stuff in. Synology can actually run programs. It can actually work as kind of a networked computer, a sort of trimmed down, slimmed down networked computer. And with that, you can kind of treat it as if it were a Raspberry Pi and run software on it, or run a Node.js server like Homebridge on it. So Harry, there are two methods that we'll include links to in the show notes, and we'll talk about the easiest one. The easiest one is to head over to GitHub and find the Docker Homebridge project, which lets you run Homebridge on Synology. Basically, what you do is you install Docker, which you can get by using the package center on your Synology. And so once you have the package center open and you've installed Docker, then you just go and get the Homebridge package. And then once you do that, you follow along through this list and install it and get it running. And then you've got Homebridge right there on your device. And again, I can go to, at that point, homebridge.local, and you'll be able to log in and use Homebridge. If for some reason you don't want to use Docker, I guess there were enough people who didn't want to use Docker that somebody created a guide. This is a lot more involved. I read through this, and it is a lot more involved. So it says, if you have a powerful network attached storage, then Docker is the way to go. But if your NAS network attached storage doesn't support Docker, then this would be the way to go. So if you don't have a powerful NAS, then you might have to go this way, assuming you don't want to just install a Raspberry Pi, buy a Raspberry Pi separately. Then you can follow through all of these steps where you install Debian, you install Node, and then you start installing the dependencies that you need before you finally install Homebridge and set it up as a service. Again, it's rather involved and has a lot of different changes and adjustments you have to make, but if it's not powerful enough to run Docker on your Synology, then that might be the way that you have to go. But at that point, I kind of wonder if it's not more worth it to just get a Raspberry Pi that can serve as a single-purpose device for just being your Homebridge server. So, yeah, Harry, there are a couple of things you can do. We'll include those links, as I said, so that you know exactly what steps to follow along with. And feel free to get back to us and let us know what you ended up doing for sure.
Awesome. Nice. I would love something like that, especially just to manage all my storage. And like I was saying, I just uniquely happen to have a Mac Mini. That's why Homebridge would work here. But I do think having that kind of dedicated device like this, regardless of which type, is probably a little bit better.
Yeah. Agreed. Again, any kind of focused device is a good thing. Alrighty, now it is time for our picks of the week. What, Matthew Casanelli, is your pick of the week?
My pick of the week, I'm going with an interesting angle here, is instead of getting something new, it's upcycling something that you currently have. And so I thought this was a cool story that I definitely think is a very good use of old devices. Is Samsung. Also, this is great marketing because they make it sound like they're doing something different than they actually are, where in the SmartThings app, in the labs section, you can turn on the ability for your Samsung or your old Galaxy phone to become basically a smart home device itself, where it can do things like sound recognition and recording like a baby crying or something like that. Or the cool one is the light sensor. So it can use what would normally be the brightness display sensor to change the levels there. It can just detect that there's not enough light in the room and then send that back and forth through to your smart home products so that it can turn off lights and things like that. So I thought this was just a great way to actually put that old device to use without just letting it sit in a drawer. And especially like if you do have those, you don't have to go buy those other sensors and things like that. You probably would need to wire it up is going to be the main thing so that it has constant power, but I don't see why you wouldn't use this if you had it. Like, it is a smart little solution there. And so it's totally free if you have it, which is great too.
I love this. I can't remember what show it was. It may have been Tech News Weekly, but I think that's where it happened, where I ended up talking about this with Jason Howell. But wherever it was, I thought this was just a great idea. Nice. Some of us do have extra devices in our drawers, and to be able to pull one out and use it for the home is fantastic and smart, just all around smart. So I think this is a really cool idea, and I hope they continue to add new things that you will be able to do with them over time. All right. We talked about this on the show before, and it's something that I have been eyeballing for a while and decided to get because it'll be great, I think, for my iOS Today show, and frankly, any of the shows that I do. And also, I play Dungeons and Dragons live on the internet almost every Tuesday, and having my iPad there to be my character sheet and stuff would be great. So we're doing a little live unboxing here of 12 South's Hover Bar Duo. I just ordered this from Amazon. I ordered it a while back, but they were out of stock, and so I had to wait until it came into stock so that I could actually get it. And I just got the notification yesterday, hey, it's going to be delivered tomorrow, because originally it said it wouldn't be delivered until May. So I'm excited to get it early. So yeah, it comes. It had a sleeve on the top, and then we've got a black box here. It's quite hefty. You've got your instructions, your owner's guide with. It says you get your iPad clip, your desk base with attached arm, the shelf clamp. It comes with a large and small hex wrench as well, and it shows you how to get it connected. Oh, interestingly, the cardboard has the little 12 South logo cut out of it. That's kind of cute. Let's see here. We've got, oh my goodness, the iPad clip, which extends to hold the iPad. Kind of a rubbery surface that can actually grip the iPad a little bit, and then it slides on the or it screws on the back to clip your iPad down. So I'll put that down for a second and go for the. Let's see, what is this? Oh, I see. This is the desk clamp so that you can install it on the desk if you want to. It's got two rubberized sections with a screw portion so that you can screw it down. So I think I'll quickly put that on my desk here so that way I can set this up. It's very grippy, and it's kind of a nice soft silicone or rubber so that it doesn't... what's the word I'm looking for? It doesn't scratch.
Like damage the desk, yeah.
Yeah. And then...
I've got that.
My hex wrenches and some sort of washer. And then the main portion itself, which is a very hefty base that has a piece of plastic on the top to keep that protected. So I'll peel that off. There's the 12 South logo. This is a really nice, feels like an anodized aluminum. And then as we had noted, the Apple Pencil dip, so you can slide your Apple Pencil into this area and have it stay there. It does appear, yeah, it has chamfered edges, just like an Apple device,
Nice.
Which is pretty cool. And let's see, so the main arm comes up, and then you can install, it's kind of a ball joint on the end, which is where you install the device that you're using. So I think what I'm going to do is I'll just put it down onto the desk instead of using that arm or the clamp for now. Let me move to the side for just a sec.
Some of the reviews are saying that you have to use those Allen wrenches to switch between the base and the arm.
Ah, that's why. Yes. Yeah. So on the bottom here, you can see that that needs the Allen wrench in order to take it off of the base and install it as part of the clamp. So you kind of do have to make a choice which one you want to do. And so what I'm going to do now is install the gripper here. It is a little bit, it's not as tall as I thought it was going to be. That is one thing that I will say of it.
That's what I was going to ask.
Expect
it says 2 feet, but that's like 2 feet fully extended straight upwards and into the middle of the iPad. So it's a little less clear exactly how high it can get. But it does seem like, compared to most other stands, the base and then just the strength of the arm seem like fairly substantial.
They've also done a clever thing where the portion on the back that screws in, here, I'll undo it for a second so you can see. It's got these little teeth on it, kind of like a gear. They're kind of hard to see in the video, but the little teeth on it that are kind of like a gear. And so when you install the clamp has spots for the teeth. So that makes it easier to grab and make adjustments because there's more traction there, more control. So I'm screwing it on now, and we will, there we go. That feels tight enough. And then I'll put the iPad into here. Got an iPad Air here with me. And now the iPad is on the clamp, and then I believe I can take it and turn it in whatever direction I want, bring it up, bring it down, and move it around. That ball joint is very free moving, which is nice. And then, of course, you can tighten it a little bit if you need to. But the cool thing about it is that then you can set it up in all sorts of ways in the video online, and also in the video, in the photos and stuff online, and also in the guide. You can see here, maybe if it readjusts, the iPad is kind of clamped to a pipe, or maybe you have some sort of setup above your desk or studio area, and so you can clamp it to that and have it hang down as opposed to being on the ground, kind of or on your table hanging.
That's
up.
pretty much how I'd use it, because here, wait, switch to my camera real quick, because I'm doing a stream after this, but I have an overhead bar.
Oh, nice!
My camera thing constantly set up, and so I could have like the iPad mounted on the side and then off of the desk surface, which is cool.
And it shows here you can adjust the base hinge as well using the Allen wrench. So if you feel like this is too loose, I like that it's kind of adjustable at all points to make sure that you've got the proper tension that you want. So yeah, this is a lot taller. I've had for a while, I really like this Sateki stand, and have used this for a while, but the new 12 South stand is much taller.
I've got my own that's a cheapo, doesn't have the adjustable thing, but yeah, I use a very similar thing. Are you using this for like the iPad itself, or for Sidecar also, and like external trackpad and keyboard? Or
I've never really used, so I've used Sidecar a few times and just ended up, I've got enough screens. I've got my MacBook Pro screen and then 2 external screens. So I've got 3 screens. Oh, wow. Yeah, so I don't really need another screen for that. But when I am, showing off apps for iOS today, this will be great for that. What's really nice is that before the iPad was kind of way down below on the desk. Now it's right at, it's just outside the camera so you can't see it, but like it's right at chest height now as I'm sitting down. Yeah. So I'm able to look directly at it and be able to get access to it. I think I could easily use it for cooking and stuff as well. I think it'd be great for looking at recipes, and I'll be interested to see how it works. Oh, interestingly,
even like movies and stuff, yeah, would be good too.
Interestingly, it features. Let's see. Oh no, I was misreading that. Okay. Yeah, so it's got the desk clamp way to do it, and the stand way to do it, and it talks about
$80.
Yes, $79.99. So it's a little pricey. It is a little pricey.
But that's still
it is.
for the level of hardware quality. It looks
exactly
reasonable.
This is like anodized aluminum. It's very hefty. It's got premium. The grip feels very secure. It is. What was the other thing that I was going to note? It's clear that they thought about how you would want to adjust it, and in what ways you'd want to put it together. And so all of those things, I think, add up to it being a really nice experience. And again, certainly something that I will get a lot of use out of. So I'm excited to have it here. They did hover. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, just the demo video also showed them doing a little top-down shot with the iPad being suspended above, which is actually like not an easy angle to get. So that's interesting too.
Yeah, and I think it's if I have my iPhone in landscape orientation, yeah, I could even hold my iPhone. So if I wanted to put my iPhone in it like that, I am able to.
It does work. Oh, nice.
Which then I can turn and then it's in portrait mode.
Interesting. So, wow. So. Yeah. Very expensive iPhone stand also.
The most expensive iPhone stand. That's the 12 South Hover Bar Duo, which is available for $79.99. I just ordered mine on Amazon, but I imagine it's also available from 12 South's own website. Thanks to those of you who tuned in live with us. We record the show every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, which is 1:30 p.m. Pacific. You just go to twit.tv/live to check it out, and you can go to irc.twit.tv where you can join the chat there. If you would like to, though, the best way to get the show is by subscribing. And you do that by going to twit.tv/STT and subscribing to the show in audio, video formats by clicking on subscribe to audio, subscribe to video. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, all the places you are. We want to be there too, and available for you to subscribe to us. Matthew Castanelli, if folks want to follow you online and check out all the great work you're doing, where do they go to do that?
You can go to MatthewCastanelli.com where you'll find fully updated posts, like I said last time, and also /membership, or up in the sidebar, I have my membership program, and I'm actually doing a live stream today, and I'm going to do one next Wednesday as well for my membership thing, walking through some exclusive workflows. So tune in there. What about you?
Sweet. I am at Micah Sargent on all of the social media networks I can possibly be on, it seems. So you can follow me at Micah Sargent there, or you can head to chihuahua.coffee, CHIHUA.coffee, where I've got links to kind of my most active places. Yeah, I think that's going to do it for us this week, folks. Until next time, this has been Smart Tech Today. Say good afternoon to all of your smart assistants.
Peace.
Hope you enjoyed that episode. If you would like to laugh while learning about how to take control and take advantage of all of the features that your iOS devices provide, then you should check out iOS Today, the show Rosemary Orchard, my co-host, and I, Micah Sargent, host every week on the Twit Network. It's all things Apple all the time.